Hi, Drew.
Hi, Anna.
I am so excited. Do you have your sunscreen?
I do.
Do you have your swimsuit?
I do.
Do you have your water shoes?
Yeah, I don't wear water shoes.
You need to, because we are going swimming in the river today.
I thought it was going to be a pool. It's
No.
a river?
It's a river. You know that one river that's on the other side of town and you got to kind of go through the woods a little bit to get to it?
Yes.
That's where we're going swimming today. It's my favorite spot to go swimming.
Oh, well, I can't. Can I just, is it okay if I just wear flip-flops? Is that all right?
I mean, I guess that's fine. But are you cool like swimming in a river?
Is it sanitary?
Enough.
How do you know?
I mean, I've never gotten sick swimming in it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little itchy afterwards, but it's fine.
I think I'll try. I'll try to be brave.
Yes. And on the way, we are actually going to talk about a story where God used somebody swimming in a river to heal them.
Ooh.
Yeah. You ready? You want to talk about it?
I am. Actually, my shoulder hurts. Do you think it'll get better?
I don't know. Let's talk about the story and see if we can figure it out.
Let's do it.
Okay, come on, let's go.
From the stories of Noah's Ark and Anna on the lawn, through the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. Whether you're new to this or an avid Sunday schooler, we'll learn about the Bible,
Just like church.
But even cooler!
and we take what we learn and we use what we find to go into the world and let the light of God shine.
Buckle up, kids.
Minivangelism. It's time to go Minivangelism. In faith we grow Minivangelism. Let's start the show!
Okay, so we've got a little bit of a drive. So I want to talk to you today about the healing of Naaman.
What was that name again?
Naaman.
Naaman.
And it's not spelled how you think it's spelled.
How's it spelled?
Naaman.
Isn't that nah, man?
Nah, man. It's Naaman.
Okay.
And this story can be found in the book of 2 Kings. So it's in the Old Testament, and it's a really interesting story. And there's like some really crazy characters that God uses to like do something super miraculous. It's got everything. It's got prophets. It's got servants. It's got rivers. It's got mule soil.
Mule soil.
Mule soil. And you know this story.
I do.
Because you wrote a song about it, didn't you?
I did write a song about it, and I made you sing on it too.
Yeah, you did.
But you did a wonderful job, so let's let the people hear it now.
Okay, here we go.
Naaman was a fighter in a foreign army.
A man whose night muscles made him quite alarming.
Only one thing could make him feel displeased.
Naaman was a leper with a skin disease. Naaman's wife had a servant girl who liked to pray.
With long dark hair that she wore in braids.
She saw how Naaman suffered both day and night.
She said he should see the prophet of the Israelites. He prayed real hard, but his gods left him snookered. Took each medicine and balm with a spoonful of sugar. But like the servant girl said,
If you're feeling real sick, there's only one God that'll do the trick. Next day, Naaman took the girl's advice, went and talked to his king, and he asked him real nice.
he said, my servant girl said, there's a prophet she knows. The king said, great, take some money and go. Naaman took the money to Elisha's door.
Hoping for some magic trick to heal his sores.
But when he got to the door, he was filled with wrath.
The greeter standing there said,
Sir, you just need a bath.
he prayed real hard, but his gods left him snookered. Took each medicine and balm with a spoonful of sugar.
But like the servant girl said,
If you're feeling real sick, there's only one God that'll do the trick.
in the Jordan River.
Naaman said, tell the prophet I said thanks a lot, but the Jordan's no better than the rivers I've got.
But when Naaman went and washed in the Jordan 7 times.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
He came out fresh and clean and he was looking fine. Naaman was amazed, but he found it quite odd.
The servant girl was right about Elisha's God.
He prayed real hard, but his gods left him snookered. Took each medicine and balm with a spoonful of sugar. But like the servant girl said,
if you're feeling real sick, there's only one God that'll do the trick.
But like the servant girl said,
if you're feeling real sick, there's only one God that'll do the trick.
You did such a good job.
Thanks. You did such a good job.
It's a really fun song and a really great story.
Yeah, I really like this story, and yeah, I had a lot of fun singing on it with you.
You were so good. Thank you for letting me make you sing.
You're welcome.
It was great. We hope everybody else liked it too. So
Naaman is actually an enemy of Israel. He is the commander, like the commander of the armies of King Aram. I assume that's how you say that name, or the king of Aram. And these people were actually like kind of not kind to the Israelites. And so Naaman was like really important. He was second in command. And everybody kind of liked Naaman. The problem is Naaman was really sick with something called leprosy. Can you explain what leprosy is?
yeah, leprosy, we think it's a skin disease where the color of your skin and the texture of your skin can change, and you can stop feeling that part of the body as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like if you get a bruise, you don't know it, or if your hand is pinched, you don't know it, and the injuries are worse. So it's people that might have had wounds or different kind of skin, and it's not comfortable, and people were kind of afraid of being around it because they didn't want to catch it.
Right. And back then, like back thousands of years ago, there wasn't really a cure for it. There is now, but back then it was something that was really serious. And so Naaman, despite all of his success, he suffered from this disease. And in his household, his wife had a servant. And this servant, it was a young girl who had been captured from Israel and taken as a slave, essentially, to work in the house of Naaman. She was talking to Naaman's wife one day, and she was like, you know what would be really cool? Naaman should go. We have this prophet named Elisha, and he lives in Israel, and he's really cool. And I bet, or he lives in Samaria, and I bet he could heal Naaman. And so Naaman finds out about this prophet, and he's like, let's go listen to this prophet of God. And he goes to the king, and he's like, hey, there's a guy in Samaria that can heal me, so let me go. And the king is like, oh, yeah. And he gives him all this money, and he sends him with a letter to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel gets really upset because he thinks that it's like that the king of Aram is asking the king of Israel to heal Naaman. And the king of Israel is like, I can't heal him. And they're going to attack us if we can't heal this really important person. Elisha finds out, and he goes to the king, and he's like, send him over to my house. I got this. So Naaman goes to his house, and Elisha doesn't even go outside. He like sends a messenger, and he's like, go dip yourself in the Jordan River 7 times, and then you'll be okay. And Naaman is mad because he's important. And he's like, Elisha's not even coming to talk to me. And why do I want to get in the Jordan River? That's nasty. I've got nicer rivers over at my house. And the servants of Naaman are like, no, you should probably listen to this guy. So Naaman goes, he dips himself in the river 7 times, and whoa, he's healed.
Yes.
They said that his skin is like a freshly born child.
Yeah.
He's got baby skin.
Baby skin.
And so that's the story. Oh, no. So then he goes back to Elisha, and he tells him thank you. And he's like, let me pay you. And Elisha's like, I don't want your money. And then Naaman goes, well, let me take some of the soil from this land and put it on my mule and take it back to my home, because from now on, I am only going to worship your God, which is really cool.
So cool.
Yeah. So that's the story.
Love it. You did a great job telling it. It's kind of a complicated story with lots of characters.
It is a complicated story, and there's just like a lot of pieces, but I don't know. I just love the story. I just think it's really exciting. And there's actually somebody I want to talk to about this story who knows even more. Her name is Willow. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we have pulled into a library because I need to go use the computer to Zoom call Willow.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, because she lives in Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah, she lives all the way in Louisiana, which is like thousands of miles or like 1,000 miles from where we live.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Zoom call her. You need to finish putting on your sunscreen.
I will do that.
Because there's not a lot of shade at the river.
Oh. Mystery water and no shade.
Yes, so you will need to put on sunscreen.
Okay.
While I go talk to Willow, okay?
All right. See you in a bit.
Okay, bye. Hi, Willow.
Hi.
Oh my goodness, it's so good to see you and hear your voice, even though you live so far away. What state do you live in?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. That's like 1,000 miles away from where we live in Virginia. Isn't that crazy?
Somebody that works at our school's name is Virginia.
What? That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm trying to think if I know anybody named Louise, like short for Louisiana. I mean, my name's Anna, so it's like at the end of Louisiana. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so today we are talking about the healing of Naaman. Now, do you know about this story?
Yes.
Yes, you know this story. And when did you learn about this story?
Whenever Pastor Drew sent the message to me.
Yeah, Pastor Drew sent a message to you. So for our listeners, Willow actually reached out to us about being on the show. She told her dad, and her dad emailed us and let us know that she was interested in being on the show. And so we asked her about what story she'd want to do, and she chose this story. And something interesting, did you know the story before you asked to be on the show?
No.
You didn't know the story, no. And so you learned it just for this, didn't you? Yeah, that's so exciting. So, tell me, what is your favorite part of the story?
Whenever the little girl, God uses the little girl to do it, to tell Naaman to go.
Yeah.
To Elisha.
Yeah, when she tells him to go to Elisha. So, Willow, when you read this story, what were some I wonder questions that you had?
One was, it says in the first sentence of the passage, Naaman was commander of the army and king of the village that he lives in.
Mm-hmm.
But later in the story, it says, the letter he took to the king of Israel read, "With this letter I am sending my servant." And it says king up here. So I don't get what it means.
Oh, that's a really good I wonder. Yeah, the wording can be kind of weird in this. And this is something to remember because the Bible was written a long time ago, right? And it was written in another language.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was written in a language because English didn't even exist back then. So
It's crazy.
I know, isn't that crazy? So as time has gone on and as new languages have been created, the Bible has been translated into new languages. So sometimes the translations can be kind of weird because it's not really clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
So what it really was is Naaman, he was the servant of the king. So he was like the commander of the king's army.
But how does he figure out that the little girl told that? Because it says his wife. She told his wife.
Ooh, that's a good question too. So, all right. So yeah, so the little girl is a servant to Naaman's wife, right? So the
Uh-huh.
little girl says to Naaman's wife, you know, your husband's really sick, and there's a guy that lives in Samaria that could heal him, right?
Uh-huh.
So if what do you think the wife then did?
Maybe he told. Maybe she went to dinner with him and then told him.
Yeah, so she probably went to, because she wants her husband to get better too, right?
Uh-huh.
So she went to her husband and she said, hey, my servant told me this. And then
Well,
Naaman went to the king to ask permission to go.
but what if he already knows that the little girl's her servant? Maybe it said the little girl, my servant, said that.
Yeah, so in those traditions, in those cultures, yeah, like the little girl was his wife's servant, but he was over the house. So the little girl, like she worked in Naaman's house, but her job specifically was to take care of the wife. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what's another I wonder question you had?
Is Naaman does Naaman follow the God? Does Naaman follow God? Does he worship God?
So when you read the story, what happens?
Mm, um, I can't remember.
Can't remember? Okay, well, let's talk about it. Do you think that Naaman, who has leprosy, right,
Uh-huh.
goes to the prophet of God, and the prophet says, God will heal you if you get in the water? So
That's not what that's not what my Bible said.
what did your Bible say?
Just go wash in the Jordan. It didn't say that God will heal you when you go wash in the Jordan 7 times.
That's true. So Elisha says, go wash in the Jordan. Go get there, right?
Yeah.
But if he washes in the Jordan, right, Elisha speaks for God, right? That's what a prophet does. They speak for God. So if the messenger is telling you go wash in the Jordan, it's kind of like God's telling you to go wash in the Jordan, right? So he goes to the Jordan, he gets healed, he comes back. And in the story, he tells Elisha, I'm going to worship your God and your God only from now on. So why do you think Naaman chose to start worshiping God?
Because God healed him.
That's right. That's right. He was praying to other gods and it wasn't working, right? But he went to the real one. That's a really good I wonder question, Willow. I love that. So what's another one you have?
How angry was Naaman whenever it says, go wash in the Jordan and your flesh will be restored. But Naaman was angry. I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the spot and cure my leprosy. How angry was him?
How angry was Naaman? And also, why was Naaman angry, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think Naaman was angry?
I think he was angry because he says, I thought he would, it says, I thought. I thought he would come out and tell me, or he would do the healing. But he sent a messenger. Was he like busy grocery shopping?
I don't know. That's a really great I wonder. That's such a good, yeah, why didn't Elisha go out there and talk to him?
Was he like doing his work or praying?
Well, let's think about it. So was Naaman really important before he went to go see Elisha?
Yes.
Yeah, he was really important. So do you think, as someone who is a very important person, do you think people treated him differently?
Yeah.
How do you think he was treated?
Like its servants, anything he said. But other people didn't have servants. They had to do everything by themselves. But they have servants. So they don't have to do everything by themselves.
Right. And Naaman's probably used to like people coming out and greeting him and treating him super special and, like just giving him whatever he wants. And then he shows up to this prophet's house and the prophet doesn't even come out to say, hey, that's kind of rude, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really great I wonder. And I can't wait to talk about that with Pastor Drew because yeah, those are I like the theory that maybe he was grocery shopping or just making a grocery list. Like when I'm making my grocery list, I don't want anybody to talk to me. Because I just want everybody to leave me alone so I can think about food. You like to think about food? No? Did you have any other I wonders?
There's one more, but I forget it.
Okay.
What does it mean to quarrel with? What does it mean to quarrel? It said, as soon as the king of Israel read this letter, he tore his robe and said, "Am I a god? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this few send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me?"
Okay.
What does quarrel mean?
So using context clues, what do you think it means?
Like, is he trying to trick me to take over my kingdom?
There you go. It means to fight. Is he trying to pick a fight? Willow, I have a question. Do you have any siblings?
I have 2 younger brothers.
2 younger brothers? Do you ever quarrel with them?
Yes.
Yeah. Do they ever pick a quarrel with you?
Like, whenever we play something called car prison, we use magnet tiles and build like a prison and trap cars who are being bad. And I normally take in charge of it, and they try to quarrel to be in charge of it.
Yeah. See, so maybe this king was like, this guy's trying to pick a fight with me. I can't heal nobody. And now he's over here asking me to heal somebody just so he has a reason to come. Because apparently Naaman was like a really good military leader. It's like if they wanted to fight, they'd have had a fight. Yeah.
I have one more.
Yeah, what's that?
How did Elijah hear? Was like the grocery store right next to the palace? Was he helping? Was he like a servant to the king, or was he helping and he heard that?
Yeah, that's a really good I wonder. I don't know the whole story. I think Elisha, because he was a prophet of God, and a lot of times the prophets would kind of take messages from God to the kings. So maybe he was already there. Maybe he heard other messengers.
Maybe there's a chapel like right next to it. Maybe right next. Yeah, just like a room that looks like a chapel.
Yeah, those are all really great theories. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some reading. Because I don't know the answer to that. You're so smart. You ask really good questions. So on Minivangelism, we like to talk about how every story tells us a little bit more about God, right? So where do you see God in this story? Or what does this story tell us about God?
God can use anybody or anything to help other people. He can use anybody for his plans. Even if they're like hurt or they've been through a rough time, God uses them. God can use the ones even who are mean to tell people. God can always use you, no matter what you've done. He always loves you, and he doesn't just choose people who are just nice, kind. He even chooses people who've been through rough times and who've been hurt or mean. He chooses you even if you're not nice.
Yeah. He even chose like a little girl, like we said, right?
Yeah.
A little servant girl.
No matter what, if you're young, you're old, he can always choose you.
Yeah, no matter your age, your gender, any of that, like God's going to use you. That is such a great take on the story because it's true. And God's not going to maybe do it the way that you think he's going to do it, right? Maybe he'll just send a messenger to come stand out on the doorstep and tell you go get in that river, huh?
God's not like, maybe I should just use the nice one so they will listen.
That's
Or
right.
tell the truth. Because God can use anybody for his plans, no matter what they do or how old they are.
Yeah.
No matter how they are.
What a great take on the story. Willow, I am so glad that we're getting to talk because you are so smart and you clearly learned a lot by reading this story. So I love this. I love having this conversation with you. And I love when I interview smart kids because smart kids can stump Pastor Drew. Do you think you can stump Pastor Drew?
Yes.
Yeah? You think so? Okay. And like I said, he's kind of been on a hot streak lately, so we're going to see.
But if I live far away, how will I get a high five from him?
So what we can do is he can FaceTime you or Zoom you and give you a FaceTime high five. How about that?
Okay.
Or if you ever come visit, he'll high five you. Or if he ever comes out there to visit, he can high five. Because he's friends with your dad, right? Yeah, so he can high five you. All right. What's your first Stump Pastor Drew question?
How much money did Naaman bring to Israel?
How much money did Naaman bring to Israel? That's a really good question. All right. What's your one? What's your second one?
How far is it from Naaman's kingdom to Israel?
Ooh. Do you know?
No.
That's another really good question, but I think it is in the Bible. So we'll look that up. Okay, so how far is it from the kingdom of Aram to the kingdom of Israel? Okay. And then what's your third Stump Pastor Drew question?
How old was the girl when she was taken from Egypt?
Oh, how old was the girl? I do know that. I think she was 13. Girl, I think you're going to stump him. He better study up. He better study up.
But how will I know if I stumped him or not?
You'll have to listen to the episode, won't you? Yeah, and nobody knows until they listen to the episode. So we'll let you know when your episode airs, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Willow, for joining me on Zoom. I am so happy that I finally got to talk to you, even though you live so far away. I think this is the coolest thing ever.
Can I tell you the joke?
Yeah. And so we always like to end with a joke. Let's hear your joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Banana.
Banana who?
Orange.
Orange who?
Aren't you glad that I didn't say banana?
Love it. Classic. I love that joke. You're so funny. All right. Well, Willow, thank you so much. I'm going to go join Pastor Drew and we are going to talk about this. And I really, really, really appreciate you learning this story just so we can talk. So you have a great rest of your day and I'll talk to you later. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, welcome back.
Thanks. So I learned something.
What's that?
Willow, her dad knows you.
What's his name?
Drew.
Oh, it's Drew.
It's other Drew.
Other Drew. Great name, have to say.
Yeah. So she had emailed us to ask us if she, could be on the podcast. And it's because she knows, or because her dad knows you.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's really neat too. So she's just a really cool kid. And I really enjoyed talking to her. And she had some really interesting I wonders. And like the thing about Willow's I wonders that I loved were like, there were like questions within the questions.
Love it.
And she had a lot of I wonders.
Sounds like a born wanderer.
Yes, she is very much a wanderer. So her first one was, what was Naaman, and like why was he so important?
Yeah.
So that was kind of her wondering, was just like what made this guy so special.
What did you think?
Well, she got a little confused because like the way that her Bible had it written, she didn't know if he was a commander of an army or a king, and it was kind of confusing. And then because we're talking about like, and then at one point the king of Aram refers to him as his servant, and so it was just kind of confusing for her.
Yeah, there's even one time when I think he calls the king father. So I was like, is this your son or something? So I think there's, in my version of the Bible, he's a commander in the army of the king of Aram. And Aram is a nearby kingdom, so it has its own king. And but this was at a time when there was a lot of fighting between different groups.
Yes.
And so countries were like all the time having little wars here or there. And Naaman was in the army, a commander of soldiers. And what the Bible says is he was very successful. And because God had given the victory to the kingdom of Aram with him fighting, with him being one of the soldiers or one of the commanders. So he's definitely in the military, and he's been successful, which means like he's very well respected. And I think that's what we're told about why he's important.
Yeah.
So I think he's a commander, which I love because we live near Washington, D.C., and my football team is the Washington Commanders.
Oh, boy.
Which is way better than being the Washington Naamans. But Commander Naaman is very well respected, and I think that's why that's what we get to learn about him so far.
Yeah. So her next I wonder question was, how did Naaman hear from the little girl that lived in his house? Like, how did it come out of her mouth to Naaman's ears?
Well, the way you told it in the story just now is that the girl who was originally from Israel, but had been taken as a slave in Aram, she worked for Naaman's wife.
Yes.
And so if she worked for Naaman's wife, they probably were around each other a lot and maybe had conversations. And as I wonder and imagine about it, I imagine that Naaman's wife was probably worried about her husband.
Yeah.
Because he's sick.
Yeah.
And he's very well respected. And in fact, the disease he has, leprosy, was one that could get you cast out or excluded from the in-group. So it's a problem because he's sick. It's also a problem because if he keeps on having leprosy, his friends might leave him.
Right.
And so if his wife's worried about it, I imagine that the servant overhears that and says, I think that there's someone in Israel who can help.
Yeah. And Willow's other question, kind of based on the first question and then into this one, is Naaman is so important and this girl is just a servant. Why would he listen to her? Like, why did he, what was it that she said? Or, yeah, why did Naaman listen?
What do you think?
I think because she was talking about God. And God kind of stirred something in his heart.
I love that.
What do you think?
I could also imagine that that they've probably tried all the kinds of medicines that they have.
Yeah.
And so it could be that they're just desperate for help. And if they hear a rumor from a servant girl that she has a God who can help, send me to that God, know, whatever it takes.
Right. Yeah. So her third question was, does Naaman follow God? And did he believe in God when he went to Elisha? So like, why did he listen to this God? Because this was not a God that he worshiped.
Yeah.
And like, did he really believe that this was something that was going to happen? Or did he more believe in the prophet instead of the God that the prophet represented?
I love that question. When I imagine Naaman, again, in my imagination, he just wants to get better. And in that time, there were lots of different gods that people worshipped. And in the Bible, part of what the Bible says is there is only one real God.
Yeah.
But for Naaman, it's kind of like if you heard our episode about Jonah, when Jonah was on the boat, all the people on the boat were praying to their gods. And they were like, Jonah, pray to your God.
Yeah.
And so Naaman might have had his own gods, but then he found out about the God of the servant girl, who happens to be the only actual God. But Naaman might just be trying somebody else, kind of like those guys on the ship with Jonah. Just try any god that you can get to answer you.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that by the end of the story, Naaman is convinced that this is the one true God, which is another thing that has happened in some of the stories we've read recently, that people who are outside experience this God and end up worshiping the God of Israel, even though they're not even from Israel.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a beautiful thing that happens over and over in the Bible.
I've noticed that's kind of the theme of like our summer series.
Yeah, exactly.
Unintentionally.
Exactly. Yeah. That so far, these are stories that are about a lot of different things, but one of the things they're about is people who are far off being brought to this God.
Yeah.
And finding healing or help in some way.
Yeah. So she had a bonus, I wonder.
Great.
So her bonus, I wonder, was how angry was Naaman when Elisha didn't come outside? And then why didn't Elisha go talk to him?
I love these details in the story itself. And I love that I wonder question. When I read that part of the story, reread that part of the story, I was like, oh, yeah, Naaman, you are really important, aren't you? Like, he shows up and he's like offended that he doesn't actually get to talk to the doctor. He's just talking to the receptionist, you know? But the way the story actually is, it's the prophet. He wants to see the prophet, but the prophet just sends out a helper. And Naaman is not used to just dealing with the help.
Yeah. Well, and Naaman doesn't even go to the prophet first. He goes to the king first.
Right. Right. But Naaman is offended. And then when he gets the instructions that he's supposed to go just take a bath, just go wash in the river 7 times, he's like, isn't it supposed to be more magical than this?
Yeah.
Like, aren't you supposed to come and like put your hand over my skin and say some prayers and, I don't know, ring some bells or burn some sage or something? And isn't it supposed to be more magical? And it turns out that it doesn't take all of that.
No. And then, why do you think Elisha didn't go to the door?
I think that's a fun question.
Do you want to know what Willow's answer was?
Yeah.
He was at the grocery store.
Oh, he was at the grocery store. That explains it.
She was like, Naaman showed up. He was at the grocery store, but he like knew that he could have been coming. So he left a message with the messenger.
I love that. An away message.
Yes.
While I'm picking up some artichokes. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think there's a thing that happens in the Bible where when something doesn't go the way you assume it's going to go, it's telling you something.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things may be that Naaman is being told kind of just how easy it is for this God to heal him. That for this God, it's just not that hard. You've been trying with all the other gods and haven't been able to get the help. You've been spending who knows how much. But with this God, the word of the prophet, a little bit of water, that's enough. Yeah. And that's an amazing part of the story because apparently it is just, in this story, it was just that easy for God to heal Naaman.
Yeah. Super easy.
Yeah.
So those are her I Wonder questions.
Thank you, Willow. Those are great
I loved her I Wonder questions. So I asked her, what does this story tell us about God? Because God's in every story. And I really loved her answer. She said that God can use anyone or anything to do his will. He uses a servant girl.
Yeah.
A young, first of all, back then, girls were not highly respected. Children were not highly respected. Servants were not highly respected. And she was all 3.
Yeah.
And God used her to kind of start the process. And then God uses a dirty river to clean this man's skin.
Yeah.
And before he even gets in the dirty river, it's his servants that tell him, no, you really should listen to Elisha.
Yeah.
There's no big moment.
Yeah. The king can't do it.
No.
The prophet's at the grocery store.
Yes. It's servants and dirty water.
Yeah.
That's healing him. And God is using those things. And she said, if God can use those things, then he can use anybody, even us. And she also pointed out, Naaman had favor with God, but Naaman wasn't necessarily a good guy. Right. And so she said, God also doesn't use perfect people. And was really special to her. That
Yeah.
meant a lot to her, that we can make mistakes and we can mess up and God is still going to use us.
Right.
So yeah, what do you think about that?
I love that. Thank you, Willow, for those reflections. I think that's spot on. There's a thing that people who have read the Bible for a long time notice, and it's just how often God uses servants or the poor or foreigners or children to do whatever it is that God is doing. And that's one of the main things that the Bible has shown us about God, is that God is not just working through kings or presidents or governors or the most educated person or the best baseball players. It's actually the lowly ones that appear to be the ones that listen to God most, and end up doing God's will.
Yeah.
So I love that she noticed that, and it's good news to me too, that whether we're the best or not doesn't appear to be the most important thing to God.
Yeah.
And that God can use anything, even dirty river water. I'm still not so sure about today, but based on what Willow has said, I feel like I'm a little bit more willing to get in the water and see what happens.
Yes, I think you are.
Yeah.
Well, one reason why I think you should get in the water is to wash the shame off of you after getting stumped.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
Okay.
I'm worried about this because I've read this story, I've reread this story, but this is not one that I have read a whole lot in my life. So bring it on, I think.
So Naaman thought that he could buy his healing,
Yes.
and he showed up to Israel with money.
Yes.
How much did he bring to bargain
Oh.
for this healing?
All right. I did notice this.
Okay.
He brought silver, gold, and garments.
That's really good. How much?
I'm working on it. I'm getting there. First of all, what do we mean garments? Like, that's just weird.
I think multicolored coats.
Oh, okay. All right. Talking about Joseph again. Good.
Yes.
All right. So the gold was in shillings. No, shekels. And it was 48 billion shekels. No, 7 shekels. No, somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between.
That's
yeah.
close enough, right?
No.
100 shekels.
No.
1,000 shekels.
No.
500 shekels.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
6,000.
6,000 shekels of gold.
Okay.
2 baskets of laundry.
No.
I don't know how many garments.
10 sets of garments.
Okay. And it was talents of silver.
How much?
10 talents of silver.
Hey, you got one.
All right.
1 out of 3 ain't bad.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Now, can you name the colors on the 10 garments?
No.
Just kidding.
Okay. You almost got me there.
Okay.
All right. I think I'm stumped on the first question.
You are stumped on the first question. Okay, here's your second question.
All right.
What is the distance between the kingdom of Aram and the kingdom of Israel?
Is that in the Bible?
No. But you can give it to me in miles or kilometers, and I will let you guesstimate.
325 kilometers.
No.
50.
No.
20.
You get one more guess.
17 and a half.
214 kilometers.
Oh, I was closer at the beginning. 214 kilometers. That's a long way.
Yeah. Can you convert that to miles?
No.
It was 133 miles.
Okay, you're just using the internet. That's not fair. Naaman didn't have the internet.
Huh?
Naaman didn't have the internet.
Yeah, but Anna had the internet, so stumped.
Double stumped.
All right, here's the third one. Here's the third one. How old was the servant girl?
That's not in the Bible either.
It's not. I thought it was, but it's not.
Willow and Anna are conspiring to give me impossible questions.
Okay.
I picture a 12-year-old.
Yeah. I have read in other places, not in the Bible, but in doing research, that she was around 12 or 13 years old.
Which is also like around the age that we think that like Mary, the mother of Jesus, was. Which
Yeah.
is kind of wild.
Yeah. And the reason why scholars believe that she would have been around 12 or 13 is because that would have been the age to like have the job that she had.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you were close.
Okay.
We'll give you that one.
I got stumped by impossible questions, but I also got stumped by a legit question. So
Yes, you did. So you got to get on a plane to Louisiana to go high five Willow.
going down to the bayou. Drew, get the guest bed ready. I'm coming for a high five.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so that was our interview with Willow, and she was awesome. And thank you so much, Willow, for talking to us. And
I just love the name.
I know.
It's a great name, Willow.
Yeah.
And speaking of names, do you know what the name Naaman means?
I do. But you go ahead and tell me.
What I looked up, it means pleasant.
I saw beautiful.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which would mean that he was like a handsome person before the leprosy.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting. The other reason why I looked it up is I once had a professor who had a son, and she named him Naaman.
Oh, wow. That's
and
cool.
What I remember about her saying about it is it's because Naaman was a powerful warrior who was humbled and healed by God.
Yeah.
So, like, we get a story of somebody who's very powerful, but also he might have been the most amazing soldier in the world, but he was still human and had a disease and couldn't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. But God was his helper.
Yeah.
And the fact that his name means beautiful or pleasing is also interesting too, because he is clearly respected, well, like excellent, successful. But this disease might have made him feel ugly. Mm-hmm. And then that is what God ends up healing in these waters. Yeah. Which is cool.
Mm-hmm. I love this story. I really like it.
Yeah. There's a lot of beauty going on.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, we've gotten into the habit of noticing, like, does this connect to other stories in the Bible?
Yes.
And so I'm curious if you've got any connections you notice.
So one of the things that was really radical about Jesus is that Jesus healed lepers, but not only did Jesus heal them, but he touched them, and he actually gave them the time, because, like you mentioned, during that time, lepers in Israel, at least, lepers were like kicked out of the city. They had to be outside the city. They had to announce their presence if they were coming anywhere nearby. They had to shout that they were unclean. And Jesus didn't ignore the leper. And in this story, once again, this leprous commander shows up and Elisha says, "Bring him to me." Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't go out and talk to him, but he still takes the time to heal someone who was his enemy. Which is another kind of Jesus thing, right? Like Jesus, I think it's very telling that this happened in Samaria, because the Samaritans were considered, by Jesus's time, Samaritans were considered enemies, and Jesus talked to his people's enemies, and he talked to lepers, and we see God doing that hundreds of years before Jesus is even being born. Yeah.
In fact, there's a Jesus story that takes place in Samaria. Mm-hmm. Where he talks to a woman who is cast out by her community, coming to get water by herself. Yeah. And he knows her, talks to her, loves her. And when he's talking to her, he says, like, "I am the source of living water." Mm-hmm. And she goes from that place and says, "Come and meet the man that's told me, that knows everything about me, that has loved me." So I think that's another cool connection, because it has water and this conversation with an outsider. And
then also the Jordan River.
Yes.
Is where Jesus gets baptized.
That's right.
Which I think is cool.
One of my favorite things about the story is that I think, like, one of the things that it tells us about God is that God is powerful. Yeah. And, like, more powerful than the other gods. There's a lot of stories like that in the Bible where one of the points of the story is to show how powerful God is. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that in this story is that this was a time when the prophets, like Elisha, were the ones who told the people the word of God. Mm-hmm. That's the phrase. Like, what God says to the prophet then says to the people. And in this story, Naaman is expecting really special words and, like, hand motions and special stuff to be a part of his healing. But what actually ends up doing the healing is the word of the prophet to go and wash. Mm-hmm. And so it's like this very powerful God, surprisingly, uses that power and gives that power just by giving a word.
Yeah.
And we talked about how it looks like it's very easy for God to do that. And God is so powerful that with a word to the prophet, and with a word that the prophet either leaves behind when he goes to the grocery store or like shouts from a back room, that is enough. And one of the connections to our faith today is that in baptism, part of what we say is that the baptism is not just the water, it is the word that we say, which is the word of God, which baptizes you in the water.
Yeah.
So that connection of word and water and the power of God is in this story, and it's also part of every baptism that we do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I love that.
Yeah. So next time you see a river, remember the story.
Yeah.
Remember Naaman jumping in that river 7 times.
And ask your parents before you swim in that river.
Well, next time you just go swimming in a pool.
That works
jump
too.
up and down. Like dunk
7
yourself
times.
in 7 times and
Like
remember
Naaman.
Naaman.
Good. And next time that you see a baptism at your church, remember this story and notice how the baptized person is doing a very similar thing to what Naaman was told to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are getting close to the river.
Yeah.
And so
There's part of me that still says, nah, man.
look at, oh my gosh.
But I'm going to go and
Look
be
at how
like,
many people are already here.
You're
and
right.
Nobody's sick. It's fine.
so you're taking me from nah, man to Naaman.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And look, there's a rope swing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that once. I don't know about 7 times.
I'm gonna go to the line. But first, parents, don't forget, we have a companion episode called The Driver's Seat, where we talk about the same story without the kids in the car. If you could please like and subscribe wherever you are listening and share this podcast with your friends and family. If you would like to reach out to us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at Minivangelism, and we do have a Facebook page now, so you can just look us up, and we are on social media. Also, if you or your child has questions for us, story suggestions, or if your kid wants to get interviewed, please send us an email to minivangelism@gmail.com. We love hearing from our friends like Willow. And yeah, we want to hear from you.
Can't wait to talk to you guys again. We're going swimming.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Bye.
Bye.
Minivangelism and The Driver's Seat are hosted by Anna Burrell and Drew Colby. Theme song written by David Burrell and produced by Evan Setzer. The theme song was performed by David Burrell, Drew Colby, and Evan Setzer. Podcast, sound design, and editing done by David Burrell. Minivangelism and The Driver's Seat are a ministry of Grace United Methodist Church in Manassas, Virginia. For more information, check out umcgrace.org.